What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about NIO. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what really moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So NIO did have a pretty rough day, went down 3.85%. After hours, it's recovering slightly, and that's because of NVIDIA's earnings. So I think NIO is getting moved through algorithmic trading, and in fact, during the trading day, it was getting moved quite significantly through algorithmic trading. But 573 the low, 599 the high, and 44.5 million shares being traded. Reason why I say it was largely getting moved through algos is because we didn't see any institutional transactions of significance. So we did see two. One was done at 10:36 and 11 o'clock. And one was for 211, other one for 116. Regrettably, both were sells, so big money wasn't really buying the NIO dip. And there wasn't really any macro Chinese data, no speculative kind of topics really brought up. So it was just largely piggybacking off of the broader market and its own technicals, which aren't looking that great. There was no official news from NIO, no SEC filings, no press releases or anything like that. One thing or a couple of things I do want to bring up. So for those of you that tuned into my video yesterday, I brought up how ultimately the Firefly, the right-handed steering wheel, the first batch is going in production and could be destined for Singapore. Even though that's a pretty good catalyst, I mentioned that the UK, that is going to be something that they can really capitalize on. And conveniently, that's exactly what this is saying. And so ultimately, if Firefly has to pick one breakout market in Europe, it's going to be the UK. And that's just because of no crappy EU tariffs. So I think in general, Firefly is going to do very well in UK as well as the rest of Europe. But the fact that they were able to kind of do that fairly fast, already start talking about UK, shows that they want to kind of expand. So definitely good to see. As far as I'm aware, I don't think that they have any kind of partnerships with any UK entities just yet. So that might be something that they can announce over the next little bit. One thing that also did come out, which is fairly good, is this right here. So Afonso did say that there is a 50% chance of producing more than 50,000 ES8 units in December. They did give a initial quote of 15,000 by December, and this is one of many high kind of milestones that and targets that NIO gave themselves. So if they are able to exceed 15,000, then that would be pretty good. Very poor wording, mind you. Saying 50% chance is just very weird. But nonetheless, though, as long as they can hit that 15,000, then that's a-okay. The market's going to see that as relatively optimistic. And most likely, this is going to be also another good talking point during their upcoming earnings. So this is pretty much the only two things that really came out. Aside from that, though, is just a lot of negative American data that was really influencing NIO through algorithmic trading. Shorts today did increase 135,000 shares. 11.62% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 160.8 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow minimum is negative, so that does mean that there is a broker or several brokers out there physically paying people to short NIO. So you are starting to see more and more manipulation, and I've been covering NIO for a very long time, and it hasn't been up until the last, I'd say, 3 weeks, most likely 3 weeks, month, give or take. This is where we've seen this happen more and more. So I think there is some sketchiness happening behind the scenes. DTC is 2.05 days, so that does signal that shorts are overextended. So that factors in the average volume for NIO in comparison to number of shares being shorted. Looking at the options, we had 6.6 million in calls, 2.2 in puts, and then 48% of all the options being done bullish in nature. So definitely good to see. And again, for those of you that had tuned into a lot of my videos, the expected move for their earnings is now only 9%. Initially started at like, I think 14%, went down to 13, 12, and now it's only 9%. So anticipated move, roughly about 50 cents in either direction. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around 650 by the end of this week. So definitely good optimism. For the week ending their earnings, though, you don't really see that much optimism. So it's rather interesting. So I don't know if maybe people are just pulling back, opportunity costs are moving to other stocks or whatever else, but they're not really doing too much with NIO. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub kind of between 550 and 6, and then the week of the earnings pretty much between 5 and 550. So bears are anticipating more of a further breakdown. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. Of course, shorts didn't really do too much, but it is fair to assume that obviously you subtract what shorts did. A lot of hedge funds were active today, and given the price action, it goes to show that hedge funds most likely were selling, and I think some of that stems from just the poor technicals. But with it closing at 575, trading between this S1 and this S2. So 570 is going to be that next strong support. Wasn't really tested, somewhat to kind of bounce off of that general area, but 570, that's going to be a key level to really watch for. And then 597 and then 639 being the next strong target / resistance points. Aside from all of that fun stuff though, this is some of the unusual options activity. I always like to look at out of the money ones because that actually does signal big money betting on a certain direction, not hedging, not doing some complex multi-leg strategy. That was them just assuming a certain direction. And you can kind of see that looks like in the short term, there is more bullishness, then longer term, more bearishness. So interesting kind of stuff. This one, this call right here could be just a covered call like a hedge. And it is January 21st, 2028 expiry with a $12 strike price. They did receive about 332,000 in premiums, and it is a 107% out of the money move. So that one was one thing I wanted to kind of bring up. On the actual chart though, today, this is where, as I mentioned, things aren't really looking too great. It did break below and close below that 100-day moving average. This is something I did warn about, I guess, over the last couple of videos. And it's crazy on exactly what has truly happened with NIO. So this is a record. I don't think NIO's gone this consecutive red days in a very long time. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below, but ultimately just watch for that 100-day moving average for them to fight and get over, ideally tomorrow. We do have NVIDIA's earnings that came out pretty solid, so that might really fuel a lot of the algorithmic trading and as well just the broader market to push higher. And in NIO's case, you need 2 consecutive days to really signal a trend. And so ultimately it needs to get over that 100-day moving average. If not, you will be seeing some further consolidation, which is rather unfortunate. But there really hasn't been that much in articles really coming out associated to NIO. Looking at the market position though, you also at the same time don't really see that much willing buyers. You see a very big gap. So if NIO flip side does get a little bit of a gentle push, or let's say shorts do really start to double down, you could see a push to that 513, which would be crazy stuff, but it is what it is. So let me know your general thoughts on NIO. As I've always mentioned, NIO is a very difficult stock to catch the peaks, to sell and to buy. Best thing that you can do is just dollar cost average. It ideally will eliminate a lot of stress in most cases. But yeah, let me know your general thoughts on NIO. Are you buying? Are you selling? What's your overall thoughts on NIO? And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.